What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about fixed or variable damage for monsters. This most notably came about as a removal of variable damage numbers in the most recent Kobold Press Tales of the Valiant playtest packet, which was all about monsters. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I pulled up here just on D&D Beyond a picture of a beholder, and here's the beholder's enervation ray, right? And it does make a DC 16 Constitution saving throw, and you'll see this on all 5th edition stat blocks, and it says taking 36 parentheses 8d8 necrotic damage on a failed save and half on a success. So your option is, as the dungeon master, if someone gets hit with the enervation ray, and let's say they fail their saving throw of DC 16, you have the option to either A, just hey, you take 36 points of necrotic damage, or say, hang on, and you grab 8d8 and you roll them up, or you use a die roller and you say, okay, this is how much damage. Now, I don't know if this gives me a die roller. I don't think we have a die roller here just in this screen. I wish we could have a die roller just within the D&D Beyond screen here so we could just do random monster rolls. But either way, you have the opportunity to roll 8d8 or just give us flat static number of 36. Now, I've seen a lot of comments because I guess the biggest triggering point for this is in the newest Kobold Press playtest packet for Tales of the Valiant. At least in that, again, it's playtest, so it may change. They have removed the variable numbers. So this would just say taking 36 necrotic damage, half on a success, meaning you don't get the opportunity to roll 8d8, you're just taking a static number. And their thought process on that was it cuts down on things like time for the DM, looking for dice, stuff like that. It streamlines things. It just removes one more roll the DM has to make. And to that extent, I do agree, right? It does cut down on things. The variability is nice because, well, honestly, from the fact that it's variable. If you get hit with this, so say the enervation ray for the beholder happened to be a thing it could do every turn, you would know if you fail this saving throw, you're going to take 36 points of necrotic damage, no questions asked. If you keep getting hit with it, you could figure that out. Now, you could make the argument that maybe metagaming, I'm not sure. But okay, if I get hit with another one of these, it's going to be at least 18 points of damage if I succeed on the save, or 36 if I fail. What do I do? And you can plan around that, and that might force you to get into action to revive somebody sooner because they can't take another hit of 36 damage. Or if it was variable, you could be like, well, maybe the DM will roll poorly and I'll only take, 7 points of damage. 8 points of damage if I roll all ones, right? Maybe you only take 8 points of damage, which adds the variability and makes the combat uncertain. And I think that's part of the nature of Dungeons and Dragons, that combat is supposed to have a degree of uncertainty to it. But I also respect the streamline of just giving a static number out. And the option would be if this was something that attacked and it did damage that could crit, you would just take the static number and double it to represent the critical hit. But I've seen a lot of you comment on the Kobold Press video recently saying things along the lines of, I like it, but not for like boss monsters. So I guess the thought process that a lot of people were bringing up is they're fine with using static simple numbers for like smaller level, not like epic big bad evil guy style fights where they should have the variability because it adds more to the fun of the combat. And that could be something you do, right? Is just like, okay, I do variable damage type or variable damage numbers in what I as the DM would consider boss fights, but everything else will provide you just the static number. And I mean, I've played with DMs that roll very well, and I've played with DMs that roll very poorly. So, I mean, if you're giving me the option with certain DMs, I'm going to say, yeah, give me the 8d8 every time so I can watch how many ones you roll. Whereas if someone that's constantly hitting the high numbers, I might be like, well, why don't we just stick with the static? Because on average, it works out for me. So I really, like I said, I don't know the answer to this, But what do you feel? Do you feel, and I guess you got to hit this from two perspectives. Come at it from a perspective of being a dungeon master, but also come at it from the perspective of being a player. If you know that you have 8 hit points and you know that that monster does 8 damage every time, you know that you will not be able to sustain another hit before you go down if something doesn't take you down prior to that. Whereas if it was a 2d8 damage, the DM could roll 2 1s and you could survive that hit like it was nothing. There's lots of weird things you can do with the variable damage types or variable damage amounts. But I also wonder, like, if you find yourself fudging variable damage numbers to up the damage, how far off are you from the half number, for the static number there? So I don't know. I think I'm leaning more in favor of the static numbers personally, just as a general rule. Maybe I will do the whole like bosses roll random, and that could just be like a fun mechanic that we have at my table. But I'm curious what you all think. Where do you land? Are you camp variable damage or camp static damage? And the other concept is right now, per what we saw in the playtest packet for Kobold Press, they're not planning to. They have like a table that you can kind of, okay, if they're this size or whatever it is, they do this much damage, and it gives you like variable dice amounts to roll for like a creature of a certain size. But is it worth removing that little bit of text from the stat block that says taking 36 parentheses 8d8 necrotic damage? How much are you really saving by cutting out the parentheticals with the dice amount? Is it worth just going ahead and adding it back in? I'm sure when the feedback is open, if it's not already open for the newest Kobold Press release, I think that's going to be a lot of stuff that people are going to suggest. Is it really that hard to just add parentheses with the damage dice after it so that I can choose to use it if I want to or not? So anyway, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time.